Hi, welcome to the Ellis Talker Show. I'm DV LeBron. Today I have a very special guest, the Waxahachie Police Department Chief, Mr. Joe Weiser. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, DV. Thank you for having me on, sir.
Well, thank you for coming on. This is the first time you're on the show. I did have your predecessor on, and you're coming in. You're relatively new, and there's a lot of things that you had to hit the ground running. But first, before we get into all that stuff, I wanted to go ahead and have you introduce yourself because, as you know, Waxahachie is growing. There's a lot of new people, and they may not know who you are. So I want you to go ahead and introduce yourself.
You bet, DV. Now, with that said, I've been here at Waxahachie PD for almost 33 years. Beginning in October of last year, I was honored with the opportunity to serve as its chief. I've come up through the ranks. My last position that I held prior to this one was the assistant chief. But like I said, in October 1, when Chief Wade Goolsby retired, I was honored to be given this position and have been serving in that capacity since then for about 9 months now.
Wow. And thank you for your service to the community of Waxahachie. That's a long time to be at the department. And then, start from, and you started probably as a patrol officer, right?
I sure did. I started in November of 1990 as a patrol officer, worked pretty much everything that could be worked here. I was very fortunate in that at that time, the crime rate was kind of high in Waxahachie. We had quite a few problems. In 1992, we had 12 homicides in 1 year, which was unheard of for Waxahachie.
Right.
And the chief at the time created what we call now, we still have that team. It's called a problem-directed response team. And the name suggests exactly what it is. When we have a problem, we direct that unit to that. And I was fortunate enough to be one of the first of 4 officers that was on that team. And I left there and moved into criminal investigations, started promoting and did all that was, a sergeant and lieutenant and in CID and on the street as well. And then eventually was made assistant chief. And now I get to serve the citizens of Waxahachie as a chief. And DV, I was born and raised in Waxahachie, so I've seen all that growth that you're talking about up close and personal.
Wow, I didn't know that you had such deep roots to Waxahachie. And if you've been here all your life, I know that you've seen some serious change. I mean, I've seen my friend and councilwoman, Miss Wallace. I've seen her picture with a revolver in her hip and an old car back in the, I think that was 80s or 90s. And I don't want to date you too much, ma'am. But yeah, it's amazing that you have seen all this growth and grown with the department and able to promote within. It's not something you see often. We're in budget time. And, I know that, money is part of it. In order to serve the community and protect and serve, money is part of it. So what are some of the challenges that you have faced in the last year with budgetary concerns? And what's some of the needs that you really foresee needing for this next fiscal year?
Well, let me start off by saying over the last 5-10 years even, the Waxahachie Police Department, along with the other city departments, could not have asked for a better situation. The council and city staff have been very responsive to the needs of the Waxahachie Police Department. We've added personnel from year to year and other things along with that, all the things necessary to help us do the job that we have to do out there. It's interesting to note that coming up on this budget year, each one of the council members said that they wanted to make priority one for them compensation to all existing city employees. And over the last couple of years, in a short window of time, Waxahachie may have fallen out of the marketability as for compensation for its existing employees. And you may know that there was about $90,000 close to allocated for a compensation study that had been ongoing for quite a few months. That has been completed, and that information has been supplied to the council as of late. The budget this year, the council wanted to make it priority one for compensation to the existing employees. And so far, that's exactly what's happened. The compensation study suggested that the city employees had fallen out of the market and were no longer in a competitive nature for our region. As for police officers, as you know, we compete in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for officers, and that competition has gotten pretty tough. We think we have a lot going on at Waxahachie for a reason for someone to come here and not only live, but work for the city of Waxahachie and certainly for the Waxahachie Police Department. And it appears, of course, the council won't vote on the upcoming budget until September 5th, but it appears that the monies that have been allocated for pay adjustments across the city's spectrum are going through, and we fully well expect that to be voted on and passed. And so, needless to say, that's created some excitement across the city for city employees, those pay adjustments. And but even still, with those pay adjustments, much of what you were asking, there's a lot of technology that's available to law enforcement. Several of the things that we asked for in the coming budget are still up for approval. They've made it through the process up to this point. Several of those things are cutting edge technology in the way of artificial intelligence for facial recognition package and a subscription to be able to do that, to put photos of potential people in a system and have them identified. And so far that is going through. We're excited about that. We are working as we speak on looking into a software application that's called Power Engage. And what that will, one among the many things that will do, is that will allow us to send texts out to our citizens just ahead of an officer's response. If they call us, we'll be able to have the means to send them some preloaded text to let them know what to expect when the officer gets there. But as importantly as that, when the officer leaves, they'll have the opportunity, if they choose to. If they don't want to, that's fine, but they'll have the opportunity to give us instant feedback, both on the dispatcher, the officers, and the department as a whole. So we're excited about that and all that that could bring us. And these are all things that are in the budget and passing through, and we're very excited about that. We here at the police department also have asked for a transition from our current 40 caliber weapons to a 9mm pistol. But not just the pistol, also would be the most modern aim point sights for those guns, holsters, and flashlights. And we're excited about the potential to be able to do that, along with the ammunition to train with those new sights and those new guns.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
You bet. Part of that process will also include the necessary ammunition to train with those weapons.
Oh wow, yeah, and the 9mm is usually the service weapon. I know it's the weapon that we use for service weapon. It's a good point and shoot weapon. I mean, yes. It just pretty much, that's the best way to explain it. It's a good point and shoot weapon. Yeah. We never want to be in that position, but if you have to be in that position, it's a good, reliable weapon. There's a lot of things going on as far as the community is concerned. Before I get into the crime, though, I wanted to ask you, are you seeing the personnel issues that maybe some other departments are? How's your staffing going right now?
So we're allocated 83 sworn police officers. The department has 113 employees total. When you count all the civilians and the sworn, we're allocated 83 positions. We do have 11 openings currently. And what I would say to you, DV, is Waxahachie has been shielded from that for quite some time. We look at those agencies around us, and they've been having those kind of openings for quite some time. So this is kind of new territory for us. I think that it's a little too soon to call that a trend for Waxahachie. Maybe we can do an interview next year, and I'll be able to give you a little bit more information. I can tell you that because of the growth of Waxahachie Police Department has been in the perpetual hiring mode for almost 10 years now. And so this is something that is not new to us, in that we're constantly hiring. And of course, I worked here at a time when that was not the case. You could go quite a while without the need and or adding personnel. But we've been adding officers every year, and we're in a testing process right now. We just finished a test last Saturday. We got 34 applicants show up. As we said today, we've got 22 applicants that were successful in the initial part. But I'm sure you know, BB, that's no easy task. It's about a 3 to 4 month process at best. And we really put folks through a lot of things because it's important. It's important that we get it right up front, and that we're only giving badges to the people that would treat the citizens right and do everything that a citizen would expect from them. So it's quite the process, but we're excited. We stay excited about it. We think we have a tremendous culture here at Waxahachie PD. Most of the people that come and visit us in that hiring process, I think, would agree with that. They tell us on a regular basis that we're a standout in that. Our philosophy there is that's good for recruiting, that we talk to them about our culture and we make them feel like they count from the start. And certainly that's a good recruiting tool. But BB, if I'm going to ask them as the chief of police 10 years from now to treat our citizens that way, how can I expect them to do that if we don't treat them that way from day one? And that's all part of our culture. And we stay pretty excited about that. We're excited about the potential of getting, these spots filled with these 22 that we have. If not, we're going to keep on testing. If folks are interested out there, I encourage them to go on our website and our Facebook page, our city's website as well. The information for how you would go about applying to be a police officer is on there, along with a lot of the pay and benefits.
Yeah, and it is a calling when you do that. Now, when I could attest to what the chief is saying. You can have somebody going through the process, and it's an extensive process, and make it almost to the end of such an extensive process and not make it, or even get through the academy and not make it through FTO. There's so many things that go into being a police officer that it is you could get maybe 50 applicants and only 10 kind of cut it, and it's a hard thing to hire. Definitely.
And that lends itself to some of the extended openings that you might have too. The hiring process many times it's not unheard of for it to be a 4, 5, even 6 month process for the hiring. Then if they haven't gone to the academy has them for about 5.5 months, the one that we use here at Waxahachie, and then about another 5.5 months through the FTO program, the Field Training Officer program. And so you can imagine the investment of time in that person before they're ever on the street on their own. And it's kind of a unique situation, and a lot of people are unaware of that, and some are even unprepared for that kind of a commitment.
And it is a commitment. I wanted to go ahead and just kind of put this up a little bit. This is the what's currently on the page for, and the basic requirements and salary for an entry-level police officer. I wanted to put this up there for you guys. Maybe if you're interested in looking into it, go ahead and go to Waxahachie PD and look under employment, and they have this. No misdemeanor convictions. There's requirements. They don't take old guys over 45. Me, so it's
Can I speak to that? Because
okay, let's
something brand new. Now, it won't go into effect until September 1, but the Texas legislature this year abolished the age cap for civil service police departments in the state of Texas. It'll go into effect September 1. We're excited about that as well, DB, and that after September 1, we'll be able to remove that age cap. And we feel certain that there will be people who are interested in possibly even a second career, that the previous age cap would preclude them from being able to be an officer. Now, this is statewide for your civil service agencies that have had to abide by that for years. And youth is a great thing, but isn't it nice to have a little bit of maturity as well? So I don't know what that will translate to exactly, but I'm going to remain optimistic that it's going to open up the door for us to get some great people who have long wanted to do it, but let that time get past them, and they've now decided they want to do it.
Well, life experience is something that plays a big role in how you function as an officer, as a law enforcement officer, period. Maturity is big, and self-control. And those are things that you develop with time and wisdom. You could have knowledge, but not wisdom. There's a difference.
Big difference in there.
There's a big difference. And it'll show in your interactions. It definitely will. So, in the last, and it's been about a year, right, Chief? You've been on?
Yeah, so about October 1 will be a year, so about 9 months for me.
About a year. Congratulations again. In this last year, because you're the leader, you set the tone. What are some of the things that you've kind of implemented and pushed that in the department?
So I can tell you that I have tremendous respect for the gentleman that I replaced here. Chief Goolsby had he was nearing 40 years of experience when he came to us 8 years ago, and ended up with 42 years in law enforcement itself before he retired. And Chief Goolsby, in his background, his education his undergrad was in architecture. And I said that couldn't have been more appropriate, not only because we built this new building, and let me tell you, he was a godsend to us for that. The timing on that couldn't have been any better. But even more importantly, Chief Goolsby was kind of an architect, and some things that he built and put into place here at the Waxahachie Police Department. And we're still benefiting from that. Although I didn't see myself as an architect, I knew that I wanted to protect and preserve what he and I and others here had worked for to achieve. And I see myself more. I'm somewhat of a musician, struggling musician my whole life. I say that with a little bit of a grin on my face. But I read a quote that really resonated with me, and it talked about not an architect, but I see myself here as a conductor, in that an orchestral conductor, and that the quote said that the conductor is reliant on the talent of those around him. And when done well, beautiful music can be made without the conductor ever making a sound. And I think both myself and Chief Goolsby would agree that the work that he had put into place allowed for us to move to the next phase where we start developing our people to the point where that leader is not really needed, that the people are leading and putting these things into motion. The work that Chief Goolsby did to get us up to that point was critical. And he and I both agreed that it was time to start allowing them to flourish with the information that they had gleaned and the development that was there. So my style is one of participatory, and we are having executive meetings where we are pulling in the lieutenants and the assistant chiefs, and decisions are being made as a whole to the degree we can. Now, I know that the chief is the chief and the buck stops here. I'm not trying to pass that buck, but I did want them. I'm convinced that our people do have ownership of this, of the future of this department. And I think when we do that, the future is brighter for the police department. So that's what you're seeing happening here is more and more that's being spread amongst the people, and their investment in the department is growing. So that's what's changing there. But I can tell you there's a lot of protecting and preserving. Now, with that said, this technology that I spoke of earlier that's going to be tremendously changing to law enforcement, drones and things like that. Those are the things that you're going to see across the nation become more and more prevalent with law enforcement. There's some tremendous tools out there. AI, it's that scary thing. I'm optimistic about some of the things that I've seen so far that will help us in crime fighting. I know the fear is rightfully that it opens the door for a lot of criminals to exploit that. So I think law enforcement better be prepared and ready to combat it with artificial intelligence ourselves. So you're seeing, our drone program is trying to get off the ground, as it were, and expand in that area. The means to communicate with and engage with our public for instant feedback, that's important to us. And these are the things that we're going to try to stay on top of to make sure that we're ahead of the curve and ahead of the criminals.
Because you mentioned it, the community, there was a lot of talk about policing, from 2020 on, and how we police and how law enforcement acts and interacts with the public. A lot of it was negative. Some of it was positive, especially in our town, in our area. People, got together with love and understanding. So I wanted to ask you, what are some of the things that Waxahachie PD is doing to kind of bridge the gap and get along, or, make the community part of it, involve the community?
That I think one of the best ways to demonstrate that is if you're on any of our social media, you'll see that we have a tremendous footprint in our community outreach. We partner with absolutely anybody and everybody we can, because communication is vital for a community. It goes all the way back to Robert Peel's principles of policing. The community is the police, and the police are the community, and you must maintain the communication in order to protect and preserve that as well. You're right in what we saw nationwide. I will tell you this, I'll make special note of this to you, is in the city of Waxahachie, Texas, where I've been a police officer for coming up on 33 years, we have always enjoyed a tremendous relationship with the citizens of Waxahachie, and they have always been supportive of us. Never more so in the last couple of years because of the national narrative that was going on. People, I believe, felt more and more compelled more so than ever to show their support to us. And it's even though I would tell you that I've always received support as an officer, nothing like we saw in the last couple of years. And I hope that what we can say about that is because the Waxahachie Police Department has long had the strong ties to our community through our outreach and through our willingness to stay in communication with the public that we serve. And I can promise you, I'm going to do everything I can to maintain that communication, because the public we serve, we wouldn't do this if it was not for them. And it's truly our greatest honor to be able to do that for them and with them.
Oh, it's a privilege and a responsibility to
Yes,
have a
sir.
badge on you.
Yes,
It's
sir.
public trust, and it's something that I mean, it comes with a lot of weight. So I wanted to ask you. I wanted to go into crime because we're not immune to some of the things that are happening nationally, as you know, and if you heard in the news, and I've mentioned it with the chief of police in Midlothian. Fentanyl is coming over the border like crazy. There's all kinds of people overdosing and getting poisoned with this stuff, and they're coming in with Xanax bars that people think are Xanax bars, and they have fentanyl and they kill them. So I wanted to talk to you. How much of a problem is that here in Waxahachie, and then what kind of drugs are you seeing come up? Because I heard heroin's making a comeback.
Yeah, well, there's nothing quite like methamphetamine. Now, we've been in a meth epidemic for quite some time in the United States, and mostly that's because that's so cheap and readily available. And that is a constant problem. But you're exactly right about the fentanyl. In Waxahachie, we've seen an increase in the Percocet pills that are laced with fentanyl. Uh, we make arrests for that on a regular weekly basis. I won't say daily basis, but almost daily basis. And if you go back just a handful of months ago, we had an overdose where a juvenile, 16-year-old, lost his life due to that. Now, we were able to make a case on the person who sold that fentanyl to that juvenile, and that's a pending criminal case. It has been presented to the district attorney's office, and they have accepted that case. That is the first time that's happened in the city of Waxahachie, where we were able to file a homicide charge based off the sale of fentanyl-laced Percocet that unfortunately cost a young man his life. So the problem is real. It does exist. It does exist here in Waxahachie, and that's just further proof of that. But we make cases on fentanyl, heroin as well, not quite as much as the Percocet that's laced with fentanyl. The little blue pills, I mention that because if there's parents out there that
Yeah.
aren't aware of those things, I would like them to know that this is a real threat out here. I can tell you all day long that, Waxahachie is a safe community, but there is no community, just like you said, that's immune from these kind of things that can happen to us.
What are your officers running into? And that was good. Well, you were saying blue, but a lot of parents may not know what this looks like, what those bar things look like. Can you kind of describe them?
Well, it looks like, like a pill that a bar is just that. It's a small caplet, I guess you want to call it that. Most of it, they're not all blue, but if you see those blue pills, it should be something. If you see any kind of pill, I would hope that you would know what it is that your child and or the people around you, your loved ones, have in their possession. And many times, BB, the person taking that is unaware that they have been laced with the fentanyl. So there's never been a time more dangerous in that sense. Drugs have always been dangerous, but there's never been a time in my career more so that you just don't know what you're getting out there. And it's so readily available. A lot of that is because the world that we live in, the internet, and global travel and things like that. And these pills can, you make arrests. Sometimes you are able to get pills by the thousands. They're easily made on the black market. They're easily transported, and they're very plentiful, and every bit as dangerous as they are plentiful.
It doesn't take much fentanyl, folks, to kill you. I mean, it takes very little of it to kill you. And when you get like a pill that looks like a Percocet, that big of a pill with fentanyl will kill you. Period. It'll kill you. So be careful with your children. It is, as the chief said, it is here. And are your officers carrying that opiate spray, to
Narcan, yes.
Narcan? They're carrying
Yeah.
Narcan. Okay.
We've had several instances of use of that with our citizens and different people. I received a letter across my desk about 2 weeks ago where one of the patrol sergeants was writing letters of commendations for a couple of our officers that used that and were able to most likely save that person's life.
Yeah, it's something that they do every day, every day. I wanted to talk to you about property crimes because Waxahachie's growing. I know you've noticed it.
Yeah.
You've been here since, for a long time. So you've seen this expand and grow. What are some of the things that we're running on when it comes to property crimes? What are things that you're running into out there?
So I will say that about 6 months ago, I did an update with one of our local papers about the crime stats themselves. And just prior to that, Chief Goolsby and myself and others here had marveled in that our crime rate hadn't really risen to the degree that you might would guess that it would, given the population growth. It seemed to be static as opposed to rising like one might think it would. Uh, I will tell you that that is starting to happen. I'm going to fall short of saying that that's a trend because we haven't had enough time to say that that's a definite pattern where the thefts and things like that are going to go up. Our UCR report, our Uniform Crime Report, where it catalogs the 7 major crimes, those numbers are starting to go up. But about the time you think that you may have a trend, you'll have a little bit of dip. So I guess we're fortunate in that Waxahachie hasn't seen the rise that you might suspect. However, catalytic converters nationwide, that's become a tremendous problem. And Waxahachie is in no way immune to that. Our car burglaries have gone up, where there's people's their cars, and that creates opportunity for the opportunistic criminals out there. So you're seeing a rise in those kind of things. We always ask people to make sure that if you're going to leave something, we ask you first not to leave valuables in your car. But if you are, make sure that they're stowed away and hid and that your car is locked. Many times, DV, when we are able, through Ring cameras and things like that throughout the neighborhood, and we see these actors out there going from car to car, many times it's just that. They're checking for an open door and they find them. And too often, when they're in that open door, they or have access to pistols, wallets, purses, everything you might imagine. And it's made easy for them. So we would ask that you give thought to that and make sure that if you must leave something in your car, that it's hidden and that the car is locked and secured.
Midlothian PD or Chief Smith also said, something similar where car thefts were going up and then people leaving their car door open. I mean, it was part of living in a small town, but
Yeah.
things have changed a little bit. So lock your cars, folks. You'd be surprised. That's criminals are like water. They're going to take the path of least resistance always.
Yes.
So they're always going to take the path of least resistance. So with violent crime, have you seen a rise with violent crime? How many murders have we been dealing with?
So we have not seen an uptick in our violent crimes. Now, the numbers, we're always nationwide, we're always just a little bit behind, as you know, in getting those numbers. The last numbers that we did receive suggested that there was anywhere from a 4 to 15% increase in violent crimes across the nation, and Waxahachie's remained static there. We hope that will hold out. That's what we want. Everything that we try to do is to ensure that through visibility and things like that. As our numbers increase population-wise, we're well over 47,000 by an estimate now, and nearing 48,000 with no end in sight. So, but the fact that it's been able to remain static, and we haven't seen an uptick in the number of not only homicides in Waxahachie, but violent attacks and things of that nature have remained static. So we hope that we can hold that trend.
I want to jump into something that's kind of near and dear to my heart, because we're as adults, one of our main responsibilities is to take care of our children, to watch our children, to protect our children, and there are a lot of things going on with sex trafficking, human trafficking. There is also a lot of sexual abuse, molestation, and there's a lot of things going on when it comes to kids. I'm sure Waxahachie's not immune to it. I've seen some of the arrestings that Miss Montgomery, the DA, has been dealing with and prosecuting. So I want you to speak on the child pedophile kind of crimes and sex trafficking. Do you have something going? Are you partnering with other departments, or what kind of stuff are you doing there too?
Well, so we do, we work close with NICNIC, who is a federal entity that kind of oversees a lot of the child pornography and things of that nature. And it's not uncommon for us to get two, three, sometimes we might get 5 to 10 cases reported to us. People who by the internet are receiving and or sending pictures of child pornography. Uh, the numbers, it's once again, it's too soon to say that it's a definite trend, but I can tell you in talking to our criminal investigation unit and the particular officers, detectives that are charged with that, they will tell you that they're seeing a definite rise in that in Waxahachie. That they know that by the cases that are presented across their desk. And, whether it's 1 or 10, it's too many, but certainly when you have 5, 6, 7 ongoing cases at any given time in Waxahachie of those kind of cases, that lets you know exactly what you're saying, DV. Those kind of things nationwide are on the rise. Human trafficking, not only here in Waxahachie, but certainly you don't have to go but about 30 miles up the road. We recently had an Amber Alert that's been highly publicized by the local media, where an 11-year-old child was involved in some human trafficking in Dallas, Texas. And we partnered with the federal Homeland Security task force for that, and Dallas PD, and about almost a 40-person police unit in order to bring that 11-year-old back to Waxahachie to safety. And some great things were done there. But all that to say that it's right here in our own yard and just outside of our fences.
What are some of the things that you suggest parents do to be safer with their kids? Because I know you when you run across, just like I've seen how these criminals do their thing and exploit children. What are some of the things that you recommend for parents to do to protect their children better?
Well, especially the very young, like that 11-year-old, know everything that your child is doing, especially on the internet. Be involved with them completely. And what you stand to lose there is the risk is just too high to not be. I know that the trend may be to not be what they call a helicopter parent. And I guess there's a balance to be struck there. But the best advice I know to give you is know where they're at and what they're doing at all times. I just happened to see that movie that was out recently, The Sound of Freedom. And, when you see those the real footage of the snatchings, that can happen just that quick, and that's obvious. And so to know where they're at and what they're doing and what their surroundings are, we tell people the basic thing of any crime prevention is be aware of your surroundings. And certainly as a parent, that onus is doubled or tripled, I guess, depending on how many children you have, to be aware of their surroundings as well.
Yeah, well, we have some technology problems where Chief has been coming in and out, but it's part of it. The tech gremlins do strike, but it's so sex trafficking, human trafficking is here in Waxahachie.
Yes,
it's everywhere. Okay,
no community is immune from that. We talk about the small town. Of course, Waxahachie's long left the small town, but there is no such thing as a small town in the United States anymore. With access to the internet and all these things, these crimes are a real threat anywhere.
Okay, Chief, I wanted to cover the last thing I want to cover before I give you the mic to speak directly to people of Waxahachie. I wanted to cover one of the things that is the nightmare scenario for any parent and any officer that has to run in there and get into a gunfight and kill somebody who's killed a bunch of innocent people, especially kids. I know that Waxahachie ISD has, I believe they have an officer at every campus. That law just recently passed, I think, on the State House. So I want you to speak on, I know that there's some things that can't be said. I get it. But the stuff that can be said, if you could reassure parents and talk about response time maybe or something.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that just by happenstance that Uvalde happened just prior to my being named the chief of police here. So to me, it was a no-brainer when looking at, Joe, what would you have as your priority? And it was easy for me to say that, we need to be able to give our officers the necessary tools and the necessary training and then the necessary mindset that when I look at any parent in the city of Waxahachie, I can honestly tell them that the members of the Waxahachie Police Department are doing everything within our power to put us in the best position of success. And sad to say, Dee, I have to look at it as in Waxahachie, Texas, it's not a matter of if, but a matter of when. I pray to God that it's never going to happen, but we can't afford to look at it in law enforcement. So my priority from the start of October 1 of last year has been to do everything we can to make sure that our people are the best prepared, the best trained, and the best equipped to make sure that if such a thing as horrible as that would happen, and let's face it, whether it's in a school or a mall or an industry or anything like that with an active shooter, that we're giving our people the best chance to be successful with that. We have a lot of partners. We're part of 11 city Southwest regional group. If you talk with Chief Smith over in Midlothian, he was one of the founding members of that. He was very instrumental in getting that started many years ago. But Waxahachie's part of that program as well for strategic response and SWAT type things, and we train constantly. We have probably tripled our training in the last year for these types of responses. We're working with our partners at WISD on a continual basis. We feel very fortunate to have that kind of relationship with them. As we're going back to school, we've been in those schools training throughout the summer. And running through scenarios of what we could do and should do in those. And, you can't plan for everything. Nope. But we busy ourselves as much as we possibly can to make sure that our people are in the best place to be successful if and when one of those situations happen.
You fight like you train. And I completely subscribe to that you'd fight like you train. If you're not training, you're not going to fight well. And unfortunately, because of this world, you're going to end up fighting. I mean, we had that it was a false alarm, but the Walmart the other day, I mean, everybody thought there was a mass shooting at Walmart, and it was pandemonium. There was people running out, and the great officers from many different agencies around here showed up ready to go.
And we made something good come from something not so good. And that was an opportunity to train and to kind of test ourselves on how we would respond. And I can tell you, DV, I've never been more proud of my officers and the work that they're doing there. They prove to me on a regular basis that they continue to only get better with that response. Sad to say, we've been able to see these active shooters scenarios in real life on video. We've seen them responded to both poorly and both very well. And so we learn from those, both types. It just should strengthen our resolve to make sure that we're doing everything we can for our people to be successful, not only for our own people's safety, but so we can reduce the loss and hopefully have no loss in those kind of situations.
A lot of children died because of missteps at Uvalde. I mean, it was, you look back and it's not Monday morning quarterback. It's what we do. We examine the law enforcement practices that are done. And when that was examined, there was a lot of problems with that.
And some of the training, what we gleaned from Uvalde and even others is the Florida incident. A lot of officers had been receiving training for quite some time. When you see these officers do this sometimes and you see that it's not effective by any means, many times what they're doing is what they were trained to do. So I go back to what you said. You act in a way that you were trained. But we learn from that, and we should learn from that. And we should see that this is, we're not going down the right path here and make the necessary adjustments because what we stand to lose is too important. And we have to be willing. We have to be willing to say, we've got this wrong. Let's make some changes.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I've gone a little bit over, but I wanted to go ahead and give you the mic, Chief, to talk to the people of Waxahachie directly and tell them anything you wanted to put out to them.
Well, I guess I would start off by saying how honored I am to serve in the capacity of your Chief of Police. It's the honor of a lifetime. I wanted to assure the citizens of Waxahachie that they have a top-notch police department. The wonderful women and men that I work with here, both sworn and non-sworn, show up every day, ready to give 150%. I tell people sometimes when I do venture on social media, it's always nice to see somebody highlight an officer's actions, and inevitably they will say that, you know, we need more officers like this. What I would offer to you is we have 100 of them. We have 113 people here doing that kind of thing every single day. I could not be more proud of them. And my pledge to the citizens is we're going to continue to do everything we can to provide the absolute best service that these citizens deserve.
Excellent. Well, Chief, you know, I appreciate you coming on the show. This is your first time here, and you know, I appreciate you spending your Friday evening with me and talking to the people of Waxahachie. You know, thank you for being transparent and you know, coming on. I mean, it's an honor to meet you, and to, even though if it's online, it's an honor to talk to you and have you on.
Yeah, well, it's been a lot of fun for me, DB, and hopefully you'll have me back.
Oh, I would love to. I definitely will be reaching out. Can you stick around after the show real quick?
You bet. You bet.
Thank
Glad
you.
to. Thank you.